Manny and I wrote this piece long years ago, 20 years ago. We were mad keen on this, right? We had just by then learned Bernie Mohan's work and found it incredibly insightful. And so we set about doing a kind of second generation interpretation, right? Put it into the classroom. And it's called the knowledge framework. And basically, it's an idea that you map the curriculum processes in terms of cognitive thinking onto language. And so the perspective taken up by Mohan is cognitive semantic. In other words, you look at what the meaning is in the curriculum content. You think about what people need to think about in relation to understanding that content, so it's cognitive semantic. But it's not about individual pupils, unlike Stephen Krashen, okay? And the language dimension of it is pretty much located in the functional, well, given that it's Michael Halliday's kind of, as it were, influence, it's functional. And would think in terms of, well, what happens when you want to learn something in science? What kind of language is it? And what kind of thinking skill in that piece of science? Put that together, you got a story, right? We didn't think about the pupils. We didn't think about what they were ready for. All we did was we thought about what is in the official, as it were, textbook, if you like. What is this? And this paper is on a science lesson on electricity. And it's to do with building a circuit. But we didn't think about the pupils and whether they were ready for this kind of stuff or not. And because we were so concerned with, as it were, the official text, we actually talked about providing reading materials for this particular topic, focusing on the use of the passive voice. Nothing wrong with it, except some people might not be ready for it, and it might have been irrelevant. But the point I'm making is that, again, fantastic insight from, researcher, but actually not thinking about everything, in the bigger scheme of things. And teachers, if they ever saw this paper at all, this was the first NALDIC paper, okay? If they saw this at all, and if they were impressed by it at all, they would think, oh, there's a lot more I need to do to make this work. Because, all you're thinking about is the content and what people were supposed to be thinking, and you do some exercises in activating the thinking and using the language. But what about the kids themselves? Are they ready? Would they benefit from any of this? And is the past tense useful? So big questions there. And the last influence I would sort of draw on today is, again, drawing on the work of Michael Halliday, but this time in a much more specifically applied sense. Sometimes people refer to it as a genre theory, but it's a particular kind of genre theory from Australia, from the Sydney School, because there are other bodies, other scholarships in genre theory that don't use Halliday linguistics. But I'm referring to this, and the idea here is functional grammar is built on Halliday's theory of grammar, and that in relation to language, language is seen as a set of semiotic resources in combination with graphics, visuals, whatever else, okay? To represent and to make socially recognized meaning. So genres in society, are recognized because that's part of the convention in society, and so you use language in this way to form a whole text, and at sentence level, or what might be referred to as clause in the literature. And it actually has itself a set of meta-language, an issue raised by Kenneth earlier. And so, for example, this paper, I'm just showing you this paper because it's absolutely the most recent paper on, from this particular tradition. And it talks about nominalization. Now, as you all know, after the national literacy strategy is a very technical thing, right? It means the transformation of a particular noun, verb, then into noun again, abstract noun. So industry, industrialization. Okay? So you've got that, and it is meant to be, has metaphorical meaning. So all of that then, we are talking about learning a set of terms to talk about language. And in this particular paper, Gerhard and colleagues, this is an American paper, talked in terms of how to use, for example, the meta-language of participant, process. In perhaps old money would be subject, verb, and so on. But using those terms to help students to analyze language and get some sort of handle on what's going on with the text. So again, phenomenally rich insights about the text. But teachers, having some knowledge of the analysis of the text from a particular theoretical perspective, might still need to know, well, how far is it useful? And as Kenneth pointed out, from an interlingual perspective, you need to know how much support you put in order for people to understand metaphorical language. And Lynn Cameron, going back, 10 years now, looked at a set of student writing from long-term bilingual pupils from the north, if you like, Yorkshire, mill towns, and found that in her analysis, after 10, 11 years of schooling in Britain, there was a distinct feature that metaphorical language was not well understood and was not used effectively, if at all. And that there were even other bits of language that they might not have noticed, but have learned to use functionally okay, but would not be accurate. Things like the definite article the. And this is after a long time. So it is not the case that just because we got analysis, we got the pedagogy. Sort of realize that actually it's a very interesting issue here. Individuals may or may not, as it were, be able to kind of get hold of the metaphorical content of meta-language. It needs a lot of support. And in relation to the classroom reality, teachers have to then say, who of the students in front of me can handle this now, and what do I need to do to make it work better for those who are not ready, and so on and so on. And of course, beyond that, there is the issue of, in a society like this, super diverse society now, living in super diversity, it is no longer so clear that some of the generic conventional forms, text types, if you like, are as stable as they used to be. And so, living in London, for example, if you go to any official kind of business in a bank or something like that, very often the person who you're dealing with may not be, if you like, a long-term mother tongue speaker of English. And for them, they know the function of the job, the purpose of the transaction, but in terms of what text, in terms of spoken and written, well, it's not quite clear. So we need to, for example, be forever vigilant. So, long and short of it is that teaching is multifaceted. We should learn from fantastic insights from researchers, from different disciplines, different sub-disciplines. But we have to deal with all these things: students, courses, content, governments, outcomes, head teachers, so on, okay? So no single theory can help us. They can't provide all the answers. This is the nature of the task, okay? You've got to work with the pupils, deal with what they need to learn, decide what teaching approach to use, how do you get to the outcomes, and how to teach students learn. Not everybody learns in the same way. So teachers have got this very complex job. And in addition, from long-term research, we know that no teacher that we looked at in the literature and our own research would say, I am actually going to embody this particular belief and then apply it in the classroom completely. In fact, the opposite is the case. Teachers choose what they think to be useful from anything that they hear. They go on the inserts, program, professional development course, listen to something, would go away and say, well, that bit is useful, I'll use it. But that bit is irrelevant. And this was borne out massively in my Green's work in Australia, working with ESL teachers. And he found that actually with all the government money support and so on, introducing new systems of teaching and looking at literacy and so on, found that the teachers only took out one bit of it, the bit that they liked, the bit that worked in their mind. So there's no 100% mechanical application anyway. But I think in my mind that's a very good thing, because teaching is not a mechanical process of kind of applying some idea that someone else has thought of. It is actually an art more than anything else. You've got to think, you've got to respond, you've got to work out different colors on the palette and so on. So the bigger the professional repertoire, so the more we know about the Krashens and the Cummins of this world, the bigger our repertoire and the bigger our range of options and choices. That's, I think, where we need to know, but it doesn't obviate, doesn't abolish, doesn't do away with the need that teachers actually need to choose, because they face a very complex reality, far more complex than any researcher can think of locked in their little, as it were, study, thinking about big ideas. Okay? So there, I guess I should stop. Just one last thing. Robin Alexander said, it's a very bad thing for teachers to be mono anything when it comes to teaching approaches and methodology. Because any mono kind of belief system tends to overly simplify reality and provide easy answers. Going with that, and who am I to argue with Alexander? I would say, over to you with all these, as it were, wonderful ideas and so on. Really the future with this little space opening in front of us is to think through what combination, beyond passion, what to do with what we do in the classroom. Thank you.